Hey guys, on the last video I talked about what to do if your kids or a kid is not listening to you and not doing what they need to do. In this video I want to talk a little bit more about what to do if that is a long-term issue, either as a group or with particular kids. Because it's one thing to kind of be silly and be crazy and shift the energy, but if there are ongoing issues every day, then there are a couple things that I'm going to be looking at. So the very first thing that I would look at is, are we just burnt out? We've been in the same house with each other. Every little thing that everybody does is getting on our nerves. We've been working hard at school, maybe, or we've been working hard to get this homeschool thing figured out, even if we haven't quite gotten a handle on it. But we've all been together, working, trying, and we're just burnt out. So at that point, take a break, do something fun. If you feel like it needs to be schooly, have a reading day, or have a day where the kids get to teach you and decide what you get to learn and you have to do the work. That would actually be super, like, as a teacher, that is educational gold right there. Making the kids think through how to teach and what they know and why you should know it is all great stuff. But that's not actually the goal for this particular video. The goal of this video isn't to be educational. It's to remind yourselves that you're all on the same team, that you like each other. Maybe you don't like each other. Maybe this is about starting to learn how to like each other. Make some ridiculous memories. So this does not have to be educational. This is more about getting back on track so that the other days can be successful. Because if kids are stressed, angry, bickering, they're not going to learn their best. When they feel better, they're going to learn better. So this is about taking a day to kind of reset. So if it's an educational thing, fantastic. It doesn't have to be. It's more about making memories as a family. So whatever you guys love to do together. And again, because we're in a pandemic, that might be difficult. Maybe the things that you guys love to do have been off limits for a while. And that's part of why this is also hard. But try to find something that you can do, ideally that's just fun or silly, to bring you all back together and or to start bringing you together in the first place. Okay, so that's the first thing that I would try. If it's just that everybody's burnt out and sick of each other, shake things up, make some funny memories, do something out of the ordinary. If it's not feeling like burnout, if it's more like kids are, well, so there's a couple different things I'd be looking at. The first thing that I'm going to look at is the curriculum too hard? Am I trying to make them do too much or above their ability, or is this curriculum just super boring? Like, we can slog through it, but and you wake up in the morning and even you don't want to do it because it's just okay. So then I'm going to look at switching up curriculum. Obviously, maybe hey guys, let's get to the end of this unit and then look at what else is out there. And you can talk to your kids about stuff like this. How you feeling? You all seem cranky. What's not working? What I can't promise that we're going to fix. Exactly what you say, but what do y'all think? So that's going to be the first thing that I look at. The next thing that I'm going to look at is there conflict either between the kids, or usually if it's an ongoing schooling issue, it's between me and a child. The child has an issue with me that I either know about or don't know about. A lot of times I have found actually that as my kids get older, this starts to happen when they have kind of matured and I haven't really caught up. And so they are feeling maybe it isn't the right word, but their privileges and their responsibilities aren't matching the leap that they've made. And I've noticed over the years that kids tend to get really kind of hostile and feel like everything is unfair, but they don't necessarily have the words themselves to articulate or to tell you. They haven't necessarily thought through themselves. Well, I'm 11 now, and when I was 7, I had to go to bed at 7:30, and now I'm 11 and I still have to go to bed at 11:30 or at 7:30. I feel like you're treating me like a baby. Like, they don't necessarily have that all worked out their own selves. They just know that they're mad at you. So one of the first things I'd look at, honestly, is am I caught up with this kid's abilities? And for my kids, if you get new responsibilities or new privileges, you also get new responsibilities, and they actually seem to enjoy isn't the right word, but appreciate that. They want to be able to do big kid stuff. Even my teens now are still, that step up in responsibility is important. So if I'm giving new privileges, if I'm seeing that you're ready for new privileges, I'm also expecting you to be ready for new responsibility, whatever that needs to look like at whatever age. It doesn't have to be super huge responsibility, but they go together. One without the other is unbalanced. So that's been a huge source of conflict. When I don't know what's going on and I can't figure out like why we're butting heads, that's one of the first things that I'm going to look at. But whatever it is, okay, kids are fighting amongst themselves. Whatever the issue is, take some time to resolve it. So maybe kids have to sit down and talk to each other. I could do a whole video on how to help kids mediate with each other, or with you. You know, you sit down. Hey, you are being really rude to me, and I don't know what's going on with you. It is okay to be angry at me, but you may not speak to me that way. You know, and talk to them. Like, what is going on? This is not like you. This is not who you are. Um, or if it is like them, you know, if this is always how they treat you, hey, I've noticed that you're always like really rude when you talk to me. Are you just in the habit of that? Are you angry at me for something? You know, and talk to them. What's going on? Um, I will say, I was going to mention this in the last video. There are times when I will give a kid a pass. And this really should have gone in the last video. But if you have a child who is generally very compliant or generally does what they're supposed to do or whatever, and they're just having a day, I'll give them a pass. If it's a long-term thing, no. But like I have a couple children who are perfectionists and overly worry about doing the right thing. If they are just freaking out and melting down, I'm gonna be like, listen, take the day off. Now that's on a per kid or per day basis. I'm not going to do that frequently, and I'm not going to do that. But there are times when it's just, you are clearly not going to learn anything today. Maybe the math, all of my kids at some point get to math, where we just have a day where I'm like, listen, you're not going to hear anything else that I'm saying today. Math is particularly bad for this. Like, you are literally not going to understand anything else I say about this. So we need to come at this again tomorrow. So be done with math for the day. Um, Again, if that happens every day, then I'm going to look at curriculum. But it is okay to take a day and say, listen, like, this is not the norm for you, so just be done for the day. Now I'm off track and I don't remember what I was saying. Angry at you, angry at each other. Take some time, resolve that. I'm happy to make a video later about what that actually looks like, but that's a lot. Another thing that can sometimes help is to name kids' emotions. For younger kids or even for older kids who aren't used to thinking about why they're acting the way they're acting or how they feel, right now, everybody's struggling. You are most likely stressed out sometimes. There's this worldwide pandemic, and now you're suddenly homeschooling, and your kids can't count, right? And it's a lot. It's a lot for you. It's also a lot for the kids. And if they're not used to thinking about things that way, it can really help to literally name the feelings that they're feeling. You're angry. You're really angry. This is not fair. This is not a fair thing that's happening. You're scared. You feel really scared, and it's easier to act crazy than to feel that scared, and I understand that. And I would be kind of careful about whether I do this in a group. If this is a group thing, then maybe do it in a group. But if it's an individual kid's big feelings, I'm going to, if I can, talk to them privately. Some things sometimes just need to be dealt with in the moment. But if I'm talking about a kid's feelings, I'm going to do my best to kind of protect that and be private with it. But, again, if it's the entire group, then maybe talk to the entire group as a group and don't call out a particular kid. But, like, you guys are angry. You're mad at me. You didn't want to homeschool. I get that. It's okay to be angry at me. You guys are allowed to be angry about this. You may not be disrespectful to me, and you will be doing your school, but you are allowed to be angry. And honestly, if you don't know exactly what emotion they're feeling, guess and get close. And you can kind of tell, usually kids will kind of start to relax a little bit. Even if they still are upset, you can kind of see that, like, when it hits, like, okay, I am angry, or I am scared. Scared is a big one. Nobody wants to feel scared. And so they do a lot of stuff to not feel scared. Pick on their sister. Act crazy. It depends on the kid and their personality, but people will go, the adults too, will do a lot to keep from feeling scared. On that note, recently I've realized one of the biggest ones is embarrassment. When my kids are embarrassed, they act completely ridiculously, and it's because they're embarrassed. And it took me a while to figure that one out, because that's not one that people talk about much. But even as adults, that embarrassed feeling, that's horrible. And adults go to great lengths to avoid that. They do really weird things to try to avoid that, like, hot, awful shame feeling. So again, I wouldn't necessarily call out a kid in public on this. I have, though, if it needs to happen. If a kid is acting out so much that this is a huge public spectacle, I will say, listen, you're embarrassed. You need to feel that embarrassed, even though it sucks. Sorry, I don't know what your language levels are here. Even though it stinks, You need to feel that and let it be what it is, um, instead of doing this, instead of what you're doing. And honestly, a lot of times, and I've talked to my kids about this privately, the things that you're doing to try to fix the embarrassed make you more embarrassed when you look back at it 10 seconds later. It's not helping the problem, and you know that. So let's work on this. And once we've had that talk, then we can start kind of being a little bit more like eye contact, like, you're doing the thing. When they have that context. So naming kids' emotions, especially right now, everybody has big feelings. Everybody, and your kids do too. And also, they're probably picking up on whatever big feelings you have. Even if you're doing a really great job of trying to keep your adult stuff to yourself, kids can tell when people are stressed, and the whole world is different, and they know that, and that's stressful. Um, so that's I'm gonna check my notes really quick to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything major that I wanted to say. Okay. So that's all kind of talking about what to do if it's an emotional problem. And I wanted to hit that first because it usually is an emotional problem. But what if it's an academic problem? So there are a couple different things you can do. So if a kid is just stuck on math, and every time they come to the table they dread math, obviously switching up the curriculum is an option. Sometimes, though, you just need to get through one concept or one idea or one, you know, week where the kid is mad at you and you know it, and like, okay, so here's some things you can do if it's more of an academic issue. Obviously, look at switching up the curriculum. Another thing that you can do is have one of the kids help, or have another adult, have somebody other than you explain it. Sometimes that helps if there's some sort of fight with you, but it's not just about that. Sometimes the words that I'm using to explain just don't work with that particular kid for this particular thing, and that's fine. Everybody learns differently, and maybe the way that I have learned and internalized this concept doesn't help this kid at all. So if they have an older brother or sister who's already learned it, who can say, oh, this is how you do that, usually they can hear that a whole lot better than me as the teacher saying, do it this way. You can have anybody, parent, grandparent, whatever, get on the phone and say, hey, I do not understand this, can you help me? Also, a quick note again on the bickering thing. I will occasionally pair up siblings that are having constant bickering and make them work together. This is a tricky one. Do not do this unless you have the ability yourself to handle it calmly, because you're going to have to be moderating it, but it does work in the long run. If you're having a particular set of kids that just is always at each other's throats, always annoyed with each other, pairing them up and making them learn together can be really useful. It's also exhausting, so do not go that route unless you yourself are going to be able to handle it. Let's see. Sometimes take a break. I said take a day. Sometimes a particular subject you know needs to just sit for a little bit. Again, especially math. Math is one of those things that you can learn a concept and struggle and struggle and struggle for months, or you can like take a couple weeks off and get it in one day. It's just one of those things that at some point you've kind of already made that leap. And you've caught up, and then you can understand it. But before that time, and reading is similar. There are some things with reading where no matter how much you explain it, their brain just has to kind of make that growth, and then they'll get it. So if I'm really struggling and I don't think it's the curriculum, and the kid is trying, I might take a break of a couple weeks, not long. Again, I'm not wanting to take a whole year off of any subject. Well, I can't say I wouldn't consider that, depending on the subject and the kid and the whatever. But for the most part, I'm looking at a couple weeks just to kind of reset, relax, let their brain stop being so stressed about it. Because usually what happens is they're having a hard time. Then they get stressed about having a hard time. Then they get stressed about the stress that they're feeling about having a hard time. Take a couple weeks off. We'll look at it again. It'll probably make total sense. It's going to be fine. Another thing, again, with academics that I'm going to use is make things silly. Have fun with it. Again, the more relaxed a kid is, the more they are enjoying what they're learning to it. I mean, it's not always going to be awesome, but, they're going to learn more if they're enjoying, engaged, not angry. So be silly with it. If a kid is struggling in a certain topic, find a way to make it silly. So you're doing math. Turn all the math questions into something about, depends on the kid's age. Be stupid about, like if they're older kids, teenagers, be stupid about pop culture. Talk about, again, Fortnite is big here. So, turn it all into really, really cheesy Fortnite stuff. Like if you have one, I don't know, I'm probably not mentally able to make a math joke about Fortnite right now. But whatever it is, be stupid. The idea isn't to be so like cute that the kids get it. It's to be dumb. It's for them to be like, Mom is ridiculous. If you have younger kids, you can take something that they love, especially if they're really young. 2 dinosaurs plus 3 dinosaurs. That's easy stuff. But maybe you do your spelling, and instead of like sitting down and doing your spelling words, maybe you require that your child present his spelling to Her Royal Highness, the Queen. And if your child starts to spell and does not appear, adequately gracious, no, 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 no. As you address Her Royal Highness, the Queen, you are expected to use, and just play it up, be ridiculous, whatever it is. Depends on the subject, depends on the kid. So some of my kids respond really, really well to sarcasm. Some of them really, really hate sarcasm. So some of it's knowing your kid, but just get silly with it. Help the kids loosen up, help yourself loosen up, help all of you remember that this is not the end of the world. Um, Again, your kid will learn to count. They will learn to do algebra. They will learn this stuff. But they're not going to learn if every day is just hard. And so if there are little things you can do to kind of make it easier, to remind them, that this is fun. There's one other thing that I was going to say at the beginning of this video, but I forgot. There are years at a time when we have started school every day by looking at each other and saying, we're on the same team. And that's the bottom line with this. When you're homeschooling, you guys are in this little weird bubble. No matter how much you're interacting with other people, this is kind of your thing that you're doing together. You're on the same team. And I will make my kids out loud say that to each other. I still do it if they need to do it. And there were times when we started school literally every day saying that we are on the same team. So if you need to make your kids look at each other and say that, do that. If you need to look at them and say that because you need to be reminded, do that. So if they're struggling, if it's a short term, if it's a long term, you guys are on the same team. You're trying to help them get to a place where they can learn better. You're not trying to punish them into learning because it's just not really effective. They might still learn, but making it a power struggle is not going to make them want to learn, not going to make them retain this stuff. And again, sometimes they push it to that point, and if that's how it is, then that's how it is, and we will deal with it. But if you can keep from going there, then do. So we're on the same team. We're on the same team. If you need to, if your family is the kind of family that would love this, come up with a team name. The homeschools have school names. Come up with a team name. We're the Darrow team, whatever. Come up with a team cheer. Whatever you need to do to kind of emphasize that, like, we're all in this together. Even when we hate each other, even when we're sick of the sight of each other, we are doing this together. This is a thing that our family is doing. It's a big crazy thing. We never thought we'd be here, but we're doing it. So again, there's a ton more I could say. I feel like these videos are so much longer than I wanted them to be, but this is such a huge topic. I hope something in there was helpful, and again, I could talk about this for a long time, so maybe later on I'll make another video.